I know. He's fancy.
Good afternoon. Welcome, Digital Hollywood LA Monster Truck Rally. So, thank you all for coming. It's exciting to be here at another Digital Hollywood. I'm here with some fabulous panelists, some first-timers. We have some new transplants to LA. We have some incumbents. A great, diverse mix of people from different backgrounds. So, we want to keep things lighthearted and fun. We want to have, just have some nice conversations, hear some stories and anecdotes. I would invite you all to be as curious as you want. Feel free to, if you have a question, we don't have to wait till the end necessarily, especially if it's a really burning question. So, we don't have to stay within the confines of what a panel should be. We can, freeform it as much as you feel. Since I don't know everyone that well, I will ask you all to just tell the audience what your name is, kind of what you're up to, and kind of how live video, short form media, social media, how that fits into your day-to-day. And we'll start here with Vicky, and we'll move our ways, I don't know, maybe that's south.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Vicky Eisenstein. I'm a comedian, performer. I also am a filmmaker. I do all the things. I started off with a YouTube channel, and then now I have a day job making videos for a salon group, which is pretty cool. And yeah, that's me.
Hi, my name is Mike Wan. I'm CEO of Mob Crush. For those of you that don't know, Mob Crush is a social platform that allows you to broadcast your live streams to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Periscope, and Mixer all at the same time. And we provide you it absolutely free for you to grow your audience.
Hi, I'm Uniquely Marina, and I'm a beauty influencer. There we go. And I make YouTube videos along with short Instagram videos, and my other main thing that I do is live streaming on YouNow, which I have a sub button on, and yeah, I have a lot of fun with it. Keeps me pretty busy.
Good.
Hi. I'm Dawn Box. I'm a creative strategist, producer, singer-songwriter, artist, and just another person in LA trying to make creative things at the same time as keeping themselves alive. I was doing creative strategy and product marketing previously at Flipagram, and now I'm just doing a lot of creative stuff for Cheetah Mobile, which is home base for a lot of different apps like Live Meat, Cheese, and others.
Hi, I'm Chris Saint. I'm a body piercer by trade. One of the first body piercers, well, the only body piercer to have a TV show that went out on NBC Universal. I recently moved into video game streaming, so now I'm streaming video games like 4 or 5 hours a day, thanks to Mike over there. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. Just trying to get it done.
Very cool. Very, very happy to have you all here. So I think we'll start with some easy ones. It'll be pretty light. And I would just like to ask, kind of what formats that you kind of started out with when you started out, going back a couple of years, what formats you published on, and at what point you kind of started really making it kind of a passion or a career, and that you felt like this is something that you really want to do, and what platforms you use right now. And we'll start at the south end with Chris, if you don't mind.
Go back.
Right. Well, when I first started, I was like, okay, YouTube is the way to do this. Look at these kids. Look at all these kids on YouTube, and they're making so much money, and they're going to all these cool shows, and they're doing everything. And then I started to realize that that wasn't right for me, and that like short form video wasn't right for me, and that live streaming was the thing that people were interested in what I was doing. They weren't interested in me faking it. They were interested in me like feeding my cat and playing video games, which eventually became a thing. So then I moved to Twitch, realized that exactly wasn't right for me, and then eventually came back to Facebook. Well, Facebook came to me and then was like, hey, how about you do this on our network? And it just works. So, and then actually moved to a company called Restream, and then moving with Mike, where she's like, on every single network at once, because why turn down a single network when you can go to every single one? So your question's interesting, because I think we're moving away from a single network way of thinking. We're going to, hey, let's put this content on every network at once, and it's actually not going to hurt us.
So you're saying that if a network or some kind of conglomerate wanted to get a full commitment out of you, they'd have to put a ring on it to get some kind of exclusivity.
I'm actually in the boat of non-exclusivity. I have been offered that exclusive, and I have turned it down in favor of a non-exclusive contract. So I'm actually in the in the boat that says let's be non-exclusive and monetize every single network through things like Streamlabs, Stream Elements, even Venmo or PayPal. Who cares? Just monetize it, you know.
By any means
And the
necessary.
growth is way faster this way, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you get
the growth
network
is
effect.
crazy. Yeah.
And you see yourself growing on all the platforms kind of simultaneously, or
Yeah,
something.
not as much as I'd like, but yeah.
Yeah, cool, very cool. Dom?
Well, about me, well, I started posting YouTube videos when I was 17, so I would say YouTube was definitely what helped me build an audience, what, gave me a platform to put myself out there, not just to US or Mexico. I was born and raised in Mexico City. Consumers, but also globally. I used to make money out of YouTube until that stopped as well. So I was part of that train that kind of got messed up with. But nowadays, there's so many new apps and live streaming platforms like, Twitch, LiveMe, et cetera, that just allow people to, stay in the present and share their day-to-day with their audience. So yeah, YouTube.
For me, YouTube is where I started, but YouTube, I was not actually making makeup YouTube videos. However, makeup has always been a passion of mine. I actually started making DIY videos, and quickly I realized that was not what I like to do at all, but makeup was always something that I like to do, and it's actually just been kind of within the past year that I've started all my content as solely makeup, and for me, I brought the live streaming into it about maybe a year after I started YouTube, so it was kind of, I don't know, it was just a really awesome way to interact live with my fans. So it's like YouTube videos are great, but it's not live. You can still interact with your fans in the comments, but it's just a really engaging way to be able to do what you do in your YouTube videos live, which is makeup, and that's what I do now. So it's like I'll do Get Ready With Me streams where I put on my makeup from beginning to end, and it's really fun. So right now I'm doing pretty much YouTube, live streaming, and short form videos on Instagram.
Cool. I think out of this whole group here, I have the lowest amount of social followers, even across all platforms. For me, one of the things that we're seeing, so I'll take this from a sort of industry and ecosystem perspective. One of the things that we're seeing is that everybody seems to start off with one single platform where they start getting traction and also hone their craft. But truth be told, audiences are fragmented. And just a show of hands around here, how many of you use more than 3 social platforms? Raise your hand. That is everybody in this room. And if you think about consumption, engagement, and creation, when somebody goes live on any of those platforms, you guys always get a toast that says, you're live now on Facebook or on Instagram or on Twitter. And part of that's what we realized as we were trying to solve the needs for creators, that look, at the end of the day, you deal with your craft, you continue to perform, do what you do best. Our job is to make sure you reach as many people as quickly as possible. And once you get to a certain scale and you match the right advertisers, we're going to help you get paid as well. So it's one of those things where we're a little bit of communists at heart in that sense.
That's awesome. And Mike, I actually have a great suggestion for you.
Yeah.
In regards to your follower count. For any of you under 35, you might know there used to be a social platform called MySpace, and they had this guy on it called Tom, who was a big deal.
Yeah.
And by default, he made sure that anyone that signed up, he was automatically their friend. So his follower count was massive. So since you have a streaming
I should
platform,
probably do
you
that.
can kind of do that.
Yeah. Auto follow. Yeah, thanks.
And meanwhile, have them auto follow me too.
Great promo.
Yeah, so I don't know, I got my start performing in South Korea when I was studying abroad, and kind of kicking myself for not doing anything social media-wise at that time, because I did have a bunch of fans. And then when I came back to the US, I was studying comedy at Second City in Chicago, and that's when I decided to start doing comedy sketches on YouTube. And YouTube just kind of took off for me a little bit, mainly because of these eating videos that I did where I would try other countries' snack foods and stuff. So that's kind of what was growing a lot, but it wasn't true to what I actually wanted to do, since I really just wanted to do comedy. So I kind of focused more on the live performance aspect, and then I was trying to grow, my Instagram and Facebook and all that as well. And right now I feel like I'm still kind of exploring everything.
What was the best food and the worst food?
in the world that I've ever had, or
In the world that you've ever had.
so I was doing a travel show in Korea, and they have this thing called, was it bandegi? And it's like a little larvae. And so I was like, I'm not going to eat that. And now I'm vegan, but at the time I wasn't. And the producer was like, Vicky, you eat that or there's no show. And I was like, okay, I'll take it. I need the $600 to pay rent, so okay.
That's amazing. And I think there's a few notes that you guys touched upon here, talking about your producer and also, working more traditional television. And the question, as someone who publishes, on social media channels, as you convert your own business into a fully functioning business, what kind of collaborators and team do you have? And then for those of you who've done it, with NBC Universal, like how is that different in terms of keeping schedule, working with a team, and that kind of stuff? And I will let anyone, if anyone wants to start with that.
I'll go for it. You have this vision when you want to be on a TV show, and you're like, as soon as I get there, there's going to be a team waiting for me. Those doors are going to open, and then you get on that TV show, and you realize that that's just not the case, and you still have to do everything yourself anyway. So you may as well just get into the habit of doing everything yourself. If you want to hire a team, if you have the money to do that, do it. But at the start, I just didn't have that, and I still don't do it because I don't trust anybody. But just get into the habit of doing it, because as soon as you're on that TV show, those doors aren't going to open for you unless you're on Game of Thrones. It's not going to happen. So just get into the habit of doing it. That's all I say.
Very cool.
I would say that there's really nothing better than having creative freedom, right? Full on control of what you're doing. So like you said, I think it's very important for you to know that ultimately you depend on yourself and nobody else is going to make those choices for yourself. So you might as well just try things. Don't be scared of like jumping into things that you might have never done before. That's how you learn, and that's how people actually succeed. So just try things out and don't depend on others.
So, from our perspective, we see folks who are sort of in their living rooms, like, playing video games just in real time, all the way up to folks who are doing live production shoots, so in the middle of nowhere, using a sat phone to sort of connect and sort of broadcast in real time. We've seen sort of the breadth and swatch of it, and the key thing here is just really all comes down to how do you best authentically tell your story in a fashion that gets the people who are watching it engaged? In that particular case, the way that we think about it is every single day for our team is what tools do we create to make your creation easier, whether it's to hand it off to you, to your team, and what have you, so you can actually have the best experiences.
Yeah. Oh, I was actually talking on a panel yesterday about if you're a one-person team, there's so much technology nowadays where you can automate a lot of the things that usually a team would do and filter that down to one person.
Right.
Like things like even things I was talking yesterday about TweetDeck, where you can have 1 million Twitter columns open in one session, and you can just look at like a team's worth of things in one little second.
Yeah, and from our side, the big thing that folks always want to know is, look, if I'm going to be talking to all these audiences across the multiple social platforms, how do I make sure that I can address everybody appropriately, right? So our sort of unified chat product literally lets you see all the conversations happening and the questions that they're asking from Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Mixer, all these different destinations. So you can literally have a engaging conversation, even if there's a very, very small pocket of audience in a specific sort of subset.
Awesome. Anyone else? Okay. And I would say, I want to dive in a little bit to the nuance of live versus more the traditional VOD kind of content. And they'll say, one of the last holdouts and the reason that broadcast television remains kind of relevant, and I know this because I was a television researcher at Nielsen for 10 years, the holdout for having broadcast TV and even to some degree cable subscriptions is that you can get live TV. You can get news and sports and a few other like live events and that kind of thing. Now with social media and with the proliferation of live, that's kind of the last holdout that'll really enable a degree of cord cutting that was otherwise not as possible. So I might ask, as creators, as executives, as producers, the nuance of switching from VOD into live, understanding, it's off the cuff, it's unscripted, it can be maybe scripted to some degree, but you're live, it's more raw, versus something that you can edit and polish and really, write out. How has that affected you for doing live content?
I guess I'm going to speak right here. Not knowing what you're going to, what people like, right? It's a lot of real-life A/B testing, I would call it like that. It's you in front of a camera, not knowing what people like, expecting bad and good comments, versus, having a video where you can read the comments and delete the ones that you don't like, perhaps. So I think that's it. It's just being more raw, realistic, and in the moment.
Yeah, the way I would always look at it is this. I mean, I think long-form content, and more importantly, so scripted content, is very much a lean-back experience. What you're there to do is to experience a storytelling and an arc, and also basically a narrative that's being built for you within a sort of time and confine. What's happening with live streaming, though, is a lean-in sort of experience in which you're looking for the unexpected, but more importantly, you're expected to have the opportunity to react if you want to, and have an opportunity to participate. In that particular case, I think that's one of the reasons why it's exploding everywhere sort of globally, and that US is now just sort of catching on and starting to catch that wave as well, is that this is the first time in which the content that you're consuming is truly a meritocracy, but more importantly, the conversation that you're having, you get to participate in real time. And that's something that's very differentiated from what we're used to in linear.
Yeah, it's that thing of it's like the two things that were dirty words are now coming back again, which was VR and interactive TV, which we tried 10, 15 years ago, didn't work, but now it's coming back. Netflix are doing choose your own adventure shows now, and it's that same thing like you were saying of interacting with something instead of just being served it.
Right.
It's how many times have you fallen asleep watching a Netflix show because it wasn't engaging you back? Like you're watching it and you kind of fail to be all mentally there. You're kind of in this meditation state doing it. Whereas with live streams, your clients are more valuable because they're actually there talking to you.
Yeah, I love doing live streams because of the engagement that you get to have with your fans. It's not on par with anything else. You can actually just have conversations and become friends with them, and it's so awesome. And when I do hangouts, I just feel like, I'm just chilling with my friends is what it kind of feels like when I do live streams. So I've also produced live streamed improv shows and had it so that the audience could do suggestions, and then we could actually do scenes based on what people at home are suggesting. And that was so much fun and so cool, and kind of mad it never really took on, and then my team left me. But yeah, it was cool.
You may have been ahead of your time with that one.
I think so.
So when you said you did a hangout with that, was that you're actually hosting for instance, a Google Hangout, and you could actually, or some form of streaming where you could see some of your subscribers as well, or were you just more of an Ask Me Anything or kind of real time interaction kind of play?
When I did a lot of live streaming on YouTube, they didn't really have the feature yet where you could have the audience member engage, but I used to do it on YouNow sometimes, and YouNow definitely let you have that, and Instagram has it now, so it's a lot of fun to pick people, but then I feel pressure of oh no, am I dispersing who I'm picking good enough, and are people going to be oh no, I wanted to be picked and she didn't pick me, and now I'm mad and I'll never be her fan again. I don't know, I get in my head.
Wow.
And that's the fun of it.
Yeah. And tapping off of what she said, I don't come from a television background. I've always been in social media, but that's kind of there's the YouTube videos, which you can control what you're saying. You can control, you can edit out what you don't want in the video, and it's live streaming is anything goes, anything happens, and it's but I think it's good to have that interaction with your fans because they get to see 100% of everything that goes on, and it's it's just live and there, and it's a really fun experience.
Okay, so my next question off that last topic about live videos and the raw element and the community engagement is going to be, what's your maybe most embarrassing live stream fail that you've ever done on camera where you're I shouldn't have done that, or that wasn't supposed to happen? If you have any, maybe you have perfect records and it's just super easy for you. But
oh no!
I know if I tried that, I would be pretty miserable.
I think, okay, so I probably had more than a couple embarrassing moments on streaming. Anywhere from some wardrobe malfunctions, once I kind of had a little incident and my strap just broke. We won't talk about that. I've had lights fall over, in the background. I've had I have a broadcasting background that I have a cubby set up, and things have just fallen and broken, and I have 2 cats, and they'll just completely mess me up in the middle of what I'm talking about, and then I'll just
They
lose track
take
of
over
it
the
all.
show.
Yeah, it's their show. But I think that's probably the number one thing that's happened is wardrobe.
I mean, they still love you. They still watch
Exactly.
the cats, right? You're good.
They do.
Probably makes you more endearing in their eyes to see
Yeah.
that vulnerability.
Because it's real, you know, it's like, it's the real you. If that happens in your YouTube video or your television show, you can cut it out like it never happened. But live stream, you're stuck with it.
And also, since this is directed towards live streamers, and Mike, you aren't probably live streaming yourself too much. I know you guys have a really nice, fancy studio. You don't have to name names, but has anything kind of goofy ever happened in there?
Internet outage is a big problem.
Yeah.
And what happens is when folks are watching you, you're in the middle of a great production, all of a sudden it just shuts down. Like the comments continue to fly, and the question is just like, what happened? Is everybody okay?
Are you dead?
Are you dead? And then you see, the Twitter DMs start happening because you're not able to respond with anything else. So, that's probably the scariest thing so far. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's it's certainly the pressure of doing things live is that you really live and die on the technology providers that you use, whether you're streaming on your mobile or you're streaming in home on your home internet.
Now we have redundancy, which is really important.
Those are really important. There are companies that do those fallback services where you can specify like a pre-recorded video or a second source if you're like hosting, and then when that video fails, it cuts back to that second source or pre-recorded content, which is awesome.
Yep. Makes a huge difference.
The perks of technology.
I know. It's a curse. It's a blessing and a curse.
It is.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. I would say I want to talk a little bit more about platforms. We've heard a lot about the streaming platforms. We've heard a little bit about Instagram. So I'd like to know, are people still using Instagram? Because we see that in more of the, like a lot of just the images and the posts and that kind of stuff, the branded content. And also one platform that kind of changed its identity maybe since the last Digital Hollywood, I believe, was Musical.ly, which is now TikTok. Did any of you guys experiment with that? Is that a big deal? Have you used Instagram, using their Instagram Live or IGTV? And Snapchat? Do you remember that? Are you still snapping?
Who uses Snapchat?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I don't. Yes. That's what we're here to find out.
Snapchat's still crazy valuable. Like
Right.
it's the most used. Every time I put a coupon code out on any platform, that's the one that gets used most. Instagram is still a viable live streaming network. They just need to give up their RMTP servers, and they're not going to do that for a while. And then I'm sure it'll be a paid feature. Do you guys know what I'm talking about when I say RTMP servers?
Yeah, explain it.
Basically, produced content live. Like, the difference when you go to someone's live stream and they're using their phone, or whether they're using a computer with overlays and alerts. What we want eventually is Instagram to give up the access to use produced live content on Instagram Live, which is the next step for them, but they're just dragging.
On the list of, so we did a survey of around 5,000 streamers. This was just about 3 months ago. And the number one request for the new platform to add is actually Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram Live.
Is what? Which one?
Instagram
over.
Live.
Oh.
Yeah.
And it would make that platform viable again for live video because it's kind of dying off. But
Yeah, I mean, we look at the amount of content that's being created and the number of folks who are who's live streaming, who have just massive followerships on Instagram that they want to tap into. And the thing is, Instagram is the only, Instagram, out of sort of the large sort of at-scale platforms, is the only one that really is fully closed, where there is no API access. There's no real partner programs to get things to scale. But I think, with the shift in leadership there, I think that's about to change as well.
I hope so, yeah.
I think there's really no other platform that is as close as Facebook, really, as Instagram as well. So it's kind of scary when you think about it. They've taken over the whole Snapchat story, similar
Experience, yeah.
Yeah, definitely, which at the start I think a lot of people were doubting about it, and now all people do is Instagram stories. So I definitely think that Instagram is taking over and is going to take over even more so because of their loyal fan base and user base it has.
I agree.
Yeah.
I was going to add to that, to your comment about Snapchat. That's really interesting to hear anecdotally, because that's something I hear is that it's really good for converting, and that the audience tends to be pretty engaged there for both the organic stuff and also for paid.
You can get paid directly on it too. They have this thing called Snapcash too, where you just type in the dollar and you click send, and the little send button turns green, and you can just get paid directly on the app, and no one seems to use it, but Sometimes I'll like book appointments, take deposits using that. Like it's
Wow.
a crazy thing. Yeah.
That's great.
And no, I understand that Snap is kind of trying to make inroads back in with the influencer community or creator community at large, and they're kind of working on some new tools and things. So we'll be interested to see how that is.
We just got analytics, like what, 6 months ago through Snapchat. So now we got the insights and analytics, and companies are starting to want those screenshots like they want your Instagram insights. Now they want Snapchat too. So
The feedback that we've always gotten from the folks at Snap is that they really want a little bit more polish and narrative than the true raw live experiences. And I'm really, really curious to see like how with the advent and the sort of how everybody else is going through this sort of real-time live experiences, whether or not Snap's going to change their mind. Simply because I think that the curated experiences are fantastic, and it drives a more polished experience for sure. However, it's much harder to produce. It takes longer, and it makes you also doubt creativity, right? Because it forces you to have to rethink every time that you have to edit and publish. So.
Very cool. One of the reasons, too, I bring up Snapchat, I would say we've heard a lot in the news lately about data breaches. You know, Mark Zuckerberg goes to Congress, Sundar Pichai goes to Congress from Google and YouTube. Has the whole thing about privacy and data, you know, you're talking about Instagram Insights data, you know, sometimes you might work with a client or work with someone, or they want to see private metrics from you to see, like, you know, what is your reach? Are your numbers, like, are they real? Are they fake? Do you have fake followers? Is my Facebook getting hacked by the Russians or the North Koreans? I don't know. Probably not the South Koreans though, right?
I would hope not.
But regardless, has the one thing that Snapchat has kind of been as this kind of closed private system is that they've been kind of sitting in the clear for the most part from any kind of data breaches or privacy breaches. So that's something interesting there. But I would just ask, has this privacy issue affected you at all, or the way you kind of give up your data or share insights or work with your social accounts, your lifeblood on these social networks?
Well, yeah, you used to be able to just sign on to these accounts, and now everyone's using two-factor authentication, which is where when you log in, you get a text message with a code, and then you have to input that code back. Or there's a thing called Google Authenticator, which a lot of companies use, which is basically an app that you have on your phone that rolls a code through every minute. So when you log on, you have to input that code, and it's just a part of life now. It's like you have to have that second level of authentication, especially when you're streaming things like video games, because your username is visible on that screen. Like you log in to play Fortnite, and your Epic Games name is there. So the people that are trying to compromise your account already have half the information. Now all they have to do is work out the password. So two-factor authentication is like a massive thing. You can't even log into things like Twitch now and be an affiliate or a partner without it. They require it. But the privacy thing, we've all given up anyway. Like we live stream our lives and everything about our lives. Like we chose that, so we can't really bitch about it, right?
Definitely. And I don't think if any live streaming apps are doing this yet, which they should. But there's a lot of apps doing now, like face picture recognition, like verification, which is smart, definitely, when it comes about like security, you know.
Yeah. I mean, we think about it like this. These social platforms have so much data and so much information on you. The two-factor authentication and sort of all the additional sort of methodologies of ensuring that like somebody is not going to use your account to broadcast on your behalf, I think is ultra critical. From our perspective, I mean, that is probably the most important thing first and foremost when we talk about, like, you know, the service for engineering. It's like, look, this thing is like locked down like Fort Knox. We're not going to let anybody sort of touch this thing, even our own engineers.
Yeah.
So it's
Snapchat's avoided it kind of through laziness because they don't allow multiple users to use the same account. So as soon as somebody else logs into your Snapchat account, you're signed out. And the amount of interaction that a person has on it is a lot. Like me and my girlfriend, that's our text messaging system. So if I'm signed out, that like panic sirens go off. So they've avoided that data breach almost by laziness.
No, that's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I've given up on security. I live stream in front of my place or where I'm at the place. You know, I tag it. If you wanted to murder me, it's really easy. Like, I'm just going to say I've got like 3 passwords I reuse for every single internet site.
Yeah.
I'm the worst.
Or if they wanted to
many cats
gift you
do you have?
something.
I have my roommate's cat.
So I want to ask a quick question. Were any of you here born in Los Angeles? Or grew up in Los Angeles?
In the whole room?
Yeah. No, here, just from you guys. I'm sure maybe there's a few natives in here. Yep, okay, there's one. So the idea of international, because I know a lot of you have an international background. I see China, I see South Korea, so I know, and England as well. So what kind of lessons have you done learning abroad? How much, as creators here for the most part in the States, how much of your audience do you find overseas? And has that been an interesting cultural phenomenon or awakening to you? Or, what kind of anecdotes or stories would you have about how international audiences and travel factor into your life as content creators?
I think it takes time to localize, you know what I mean? I mean, for me, like I said, I was born and raised in Mexico City. I'm half American, half Mexican. And it took me a minute to understand my audience because I will get people from London commenting on my videos, and that's where my career started. But then I moved back to Mexico and understood that the Latin American market is completely different. Yes. It's completely different, so it's understanding, taking time to understand what their needs and what they like and what they watch and how they react to your videos depending on the vertical that you're posting. But yeah, I think, like I said, it's going to take time. LA market is a lot of competition, a lot of people doing the same thing that you do, so you got to know and learn how to stand out and how to stay authentic at the same time.
Do you ever do content in Spanish or any other languages?
Sorry, what again?
Oh, do you ever do any of your content in Spanish or in any other languages?
Yeah, I mean, I am bilingual. Spanish is actually my first language. And again, there's a whole market out there. So definitely if you are bilingual or can speak other languages or might have the potential to do so, definitely take advantage and do it because there's a lot of people out there waiting for new content and people, to notice them as well.
That's awesome. And did I read that you did something in China as well, or something with Cheetah Mobile?
Yeah, I actually got to perform in Macau the beginning of this year, in the Chinese New Year, trying to learn some Mandarin at the moment, which is a complete different everything, especially when it comes about reading and writing. So that's going. But I feel like there is a lot of differences when it comes about like Chinese and US markets, which is, and I bet you kind of understand how it is to bridge that communication and understanding about what people like and consume in Asia versus America, which is, again, a complete different market.
And for me, it's actually really fascinating that you have so many viewers from like all over the world because it's like, you get to learn so many things about so many different people from so many different places, but you have to spend a lot of time learning and knowing your audience and what countries they're coming from because it's like when it comes to your posting time, when it comes to your streaming time, everything. It's like I do have a US audience, but then there's a lot that are so many hours ahead. So it's like if you're not watching your analytics and paying very close attention, you could be posting in the middle of the night for most of your audience, so.
That's awesome.
I would also say it's about trying new things too. Yeah. Not always going the safe way. Like people sometimes, not sometimes, all the time want to see something else they've never seen. Like nowadays you see videos of slime and like soap carving that you're like, why are people liking this type of things?
Yeah.
So just try things out.
Yeah, the one thing that we see is the U.S. is about 10 to 12 months behind the rest of the world when it comes to formats for live. What is most fascinating is if you take a look at what's happening out in South Korea, for an example, this whole concept of mukbang, watching people eat, paying people, like literally people paying on live streams to have dinner with somebody who is just there eating just outrageous amounts of food.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's a thing. In China right now, the large, on WeChat, the largest sort of social platform for live streaming out there, I mean, folks are making millions of dollars a month doing e-commerce transactions and live auctions. And it's one of those things where you look at the format and the experience. I mean, these guys have cracked the nut on how to drive engagement and what the right value propositions are. And I think that we here in the States are still sort of like, we're just cracking that surface. And we're going to get there in the next 6 to 12 months. Our learning curve is much, much quicker. So I'm pretty excited to see what's coming up in the next year or so. You're going to see some breakout stars and some breakout hits, I think.
Yeah, and I think at the same time, though, to remember to be like, if you're a creator, authentic to your voice and what you want to do and your goals as a creator for your art are super important, because you can end up in this little rat race of like, I'm going to game the algorithm and like have this content explode. But then when that's all your audience wants to see and you get tired of doing it, you have to be like, okay, how do I now rebuild an audience? So I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, too.
Oh, yeah, please.
So going back on what you're saying about e-commerce and doing the transactions, hearing about it, it sounds like it's coming from, they're doing a great job of being able to translate engagement into sales.
Right.
And what do you guys see as the best way for an up-and-coming brand or artist to translate engagement into actual sales, and or what would you say is something for a business to look for if they're hiring influencers as well, that how can we, what are like telltale signs that we can see if we're hiring an influencer, if their engagement is high, if they're actually translating it into sales? You know, if a brand wants to spend, you know, thousands of dollars on influencers, what do you see is like worth it, or how do you see that?
So let me make sure I can get it right. So the question is really twofold, two parts, right? First part is what is the what is the sort of key methodology, or how do you make sure you can convert like fans to sales? That's first. And the second is how do you ensure that brands can align with that, right? Okay. So the first part of this, as far as methodology of conversion, rule of thumb comes down to having authentic audiences and an authentic voice. People don't want to be shilled at, and people don't want to they're not looking for influencers just to do a flash in the pan engagement. What you're really looking for is somebody who actually aligns with what you believe in, and that's gonna translate into some kind of a relationship with the brand itself, right? If you're just sort of selling like a bottle of water or doing something else, I mean the engagement's just not going to be there. However, if the authentic storytelling around the fact that let's say for every bottle of water I'm actually sort of providing water to Flint, Michigan. And I'm here and I'm believing in this, and this is something I'm going to stick with for a month or so. I mean, that's something that's really meaningful. So there's purpose in the authenticity and loyalty, right? The second piece of it, as far as for the brands, they have to realize that the creators aren't puppets, right? You can't just sort of give them a story and have them go and sort of do something with it. Our philosophy is, look, you need to have the proper alignment. Like for us, like a lot of the things that we do is we get deals and opportunities in, and then we bring these to creators and let them opt into the ones that they actually like authentically believe in. Because if you don't have that sort of alignment, it comes through and you see it in the chat. Like, oh my God, so and so is a sellout. So and so, I don't believe X, Y, and Z. Unsubscribe. I mean, it just all happens. So a large part of that comes down to also educating the brands, and that comes down to like the MCNs, the brand agencies that you're working for, and what have you. Make sure that they truly understand who you are. Yeah. Sure.
I would say most of the social platforms too, if you're looking for influencers, at the very least, if they're not using any kind of analytics platform, the social platforms themselves can go into their analytics and show you like a list of their audience interests. So it could say like if they're like into automotive or like gaming or stuff like that.
Yeah. So our entire sales organization uses Creator IQ as a part of the packaging methodology. So we use that to look at sentiment, audience, like verticals and categories. Use that to do the initial selection to ensure that there's actually alignment there. There you go.
But I would say that even before all of that, you got to know what your voice is like.
Yeah.
Understand your brand and understand what your talking points are about, because I feel like that one of the mistakes that brands do, is not knowing what they are like. So the messaging gets confusing when the influencers that you hire don't even know who you are. They don't even know what they're selling. So I would think that it's starting with your own brand and finding your voice and your messaging and your mission for sure.
It's awesome. And I would like to ask, I know we only have, she told me we had 3 minutes, and I think I might have got 5 out of her, but does anyone else have any questions that we can ask now? We only have a few minutes left. Yes, please.
Yeah, curious if you could speak on this first part of the question about converting fans to sales.
Yeah, so it's about ensuring that there is loyalty and there's follow through, right? And a best way to think about it is, look, even if you use Shopify, you use like, Venmo or whatever else, or Bitly links to redirect somewhere else, remember, it takes them away from the conversation. So what you need to do is have something that's meaningful enough for them to go there and then come back to you, or to at least remember it enough so that post the conversation, that's the first action item that they take. What's interesting is IAB just recently released a study. So for those guys that you don't know, IAB is the Internet Advertising Bureau. They do studies around essentially ad effectiveness. And the most recent one that just was released, I think just about a month and a half ago, said that in all studies across the globe, 62% of folks who watched a live stream that had a call to action had a follow-through action, higher brand recall, and actual engagement to sort of interact at the end of it when the influencer was participating in it. And this is not the 30-second ad that they drop in front of whatever it is that interrupts it, but the true conversation. So that, I mean, the power of that's massive, absolutely massive.
I actually think that's where it's going to go next. Is live, instead of just doing an unboxing video, it's going to be a live unboxing.
Yep.
And then things like you were saying, where it's a live sale. It's almost like a QVC style.
So
we're talking about the product. It's there, clickable and buyable underneath.
We did a test, and this was, I'll share this with you guys. We did a test last week and the week prior, where we literally put together a box of 100 Funko Pops behind little cards. So you can call in live, and the influencers will come in and sort of pick the one that you've selected and open it in real time. The thing, I mean, just on an average of dollars generated per hour. Just raise your hand if you think it's over $100. Raise your hand. 200. 300. Less. 400. 500. It was over $500 an hour. I mean, it was just like with like zero prep work and just interacting with the clients. And this started out at on a social channel with 0 followers.
Were those donations or were those sales?
No, there were sales that were generated. Yeah. So I mean, it gives you the idea. Like, you have to come up with the right formats and right strategies and the right sort of execution. I mean, if you guys are interested in this, find me afterward. I'll give you guys some of the details on how to do this.
So I know Facebook and Instagram too kind of have a native shop that you can use too. Have any of you guys tried anything?
That's right.
Yeah. Have any of you tried using that at all? Or?
Yeah, it used to be, when it first came out, it was only available through Shopify, and now they've just integrated with Facebook Pixel.
Yeah.
So if you put that pixel on your website, you can now, if you have like a WooCommerce or a WordPress or anything, those products can now be tagged on your Instagram profile. But like Mike was saying, the real value that's coming is not just going, hey, buy this, go, and hoping that the customer converts that sale like you were asking.
Right.
It's live guiding the client through the sale. And then at the end, having that notification appear on the screen like, and then you thanking them for buying the thing.
The delight factor is amazing, right?
That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. The ability to know that, I mean, that little dopamine hit you get when somebody shouts out your name and that thing is actually happening, I mean, it drives the loyalty better than anything else. It's
So
pretty,
upcoming brands should definitely look into live streaming as a form of
Gamifying.
more so than
Yeah. It's only just coming through. Companies like Streamlabs are just doing their, what they call it, they've just started to do merch.
right, that's right.
But I think it's actually going to be sales. It's going to be buy this Funko Pop, and then the internet celebrity is just like, hey, thanks for buying this. This one's going out to Susan.
Yeah.
It's type of like
Exactly.
HQ trivia-ish type of things.
It is. It is. I mean, it's that delight factor in the engagement, right? All of us like to be recognized, and to the point in which you feel like that's something that's meaningful, and you're watching it with thousands of other people. There's a camaraderie, but more importantly, there's that delight that you're the person who picked what you got, and you're there as a part of the entertainment.
That's right. It's still early days. There's a lot of money to be made, and I think a lot of people are just kind of tired of sifting through Amazon to find go to Amazon to find like cool new products that you identify with from a personal lifestyle or an emotional level. You go to social media.
The one thing I'm having real success with at the moment is I'm a body piercer for a living, and I had this thought that people buy body jewelry for themselves, not knowing if it's going to fit, if it's the right thing, and they're just kind of like throwing a ball in the air and be like, okay, what is this? So now I'm doing this thing where you do a mystery box and you type in the thing. You're like, these are the piercings I have, and then you get pieces picked out for you by a professional body piercer.
cool.
But also at the same time, it's a mystery box. So you get what you're given, but you know it's going to fit you and it's going to be good for you. And that's on the end of that interaction where somebody's doing something for you, and it's that next level.
That's cool.
All right, we have time for one last question, and I see a fast hand out there in the back. What's the best way to get to know who your audience really is? Do you just ask them?
I would say it's always helpful to do Q&As. I guess that you get to understand what people want to know about you and what they see on you that's making them want to watch what you're doing. Reading comments, asking them questions, not only through your video platforms, but also through, if you utilize Twitter or even your Instagram stories, there's a different things like the questionnaire where you can actually ask people, ask me a question. That makes it a little bit more personal. So I would say utilizing other platforms that you use to just make that a day-to-day in-person with your user base as well.
Are you talking about this via just social platforms, or just your audience in general for your business? Primarily
Instagram. I know who my audience is at my events.
Uh-huh.
Instagram, I'm just going to be honest, when I first started my Instagram page with my business, I got my followers because I wanted to appear that it was already bigger than it was.
Right.
So where I'm at right now is I don't know how many actual real followers I have, and I don't know exactly who my audience online is.
So do you have their do you have their dashboard?
I don't even know.
Okay. So first and foremost, make a request. Get yourself sort of verified for a dashboard. Take a look at what's available as far as your audience data goes. But the other thing is, I would highly recommend you think about it just purely from a engagement perspective, right? Because if you want to know what your sort of followers are doing, the first and foremost is you start triggering reactions, ask the questions, do things when you prompt with a certain pieces of the sort of interactivity, see what happens and see what the growth and also the response rate looks like, because those two are going to be probably your lifeblood for you to sort of figure out how much of that your audience is viable and what do they actually care about.
Thank you so much. Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
What's your, tag your best friend in this, or what's your favorite outfit for Disney Festival, or whatever. That engagement's really low. But when I do ask questions, on the stories, people are answering.
Yeah, so...
Meaning you on a video, interacting, or just...
Just for example, so I do fashion shows. So if I ask festival fashion shows, and so if I ask a question what festival are you guys excited for, blah, 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 on the page, not very many people respond. But if I were to do an Instagram story and be like, hey, do you guys think that this fashion show should be inside or outside? Then 10 people.
Yeah, you got to simplify the questions. It's, it's almost like you have to generate clickbait, right? Is it epic fail? Not, right? You got to do a little bit of that to drive people to elicit, and then you use that to drive further interactions. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to cut it off there. Thank you so much, everyone. Especially thank you for our panelists, Chris, Dom, Uniquely Marina, Mike, and I'm sorry. And Nikki. I'm sorry. Vicky. Vicky with a V. I'm sorry. I'm on low sleep. Yeah, so just make some noise one last time, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, come on. Vicky, I'm so sorry.
It's totally fine. We need to get a picture of us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.